Welcome to Rockville this year. It's going to be in November, though. So it won't be...
It won't be blazing hot?
Yeah, it won't be blazing hot. I think it's in November. It's like November. There's 4 days. They're giving like an extra day or whatever.
Yeah.
So that might be...
Yeah, Rockville was a ton of fun.
Yeah, that might be a trip we want to take later in the year. I don't think they've released the lineup yet, but they usually have some pretty good ones.
One of my memories of Rockville was, Aaron. Aaron's he's always had problems like with his knees and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like I think being out there like in the mosh pits and stuff was kind of getting to him, and he was like, I need to go home, and we put him in that cab,
Mm-hmm.
and they charged him like what, like $40, $40,
Yeah,
$50.
I gave him like $80.
Yeah, and you live like a mile and a half away.
Yeah, it was right over the Matthews Bridge.
Yeah. So me and
Take
you
him
took
to the Matthews Bridge.
Yeah, me and you took a Uber, like 5 or 6 hours later,
Yeah.
and it cost us like $18.
Yeah, I remember that because I was trying to get an Uber for him, but I couldn't get it because my phone wasn't working because there were so many people.
Yeah.
Like, you literally could not open any apps or go on the internet or
The servers
anything.
were just like all fucked or whatever.
Yeah, it was just, there was too much traffic.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I think they just fucked him.
Yeah.
I think they're like, oh, this kid's never been in a taxi. He don't know.
They're like, yeah, that's $6,000. I was like, fuck, man.
Would you like to open a line of credit?
Yeah. It's like, Aaron, just read the meter. What's the meter say?
God, I got so fucking sunburnt. That's the worst sunburn I've ever got in my life.
Oh, yeah. I remember because I got sunburnt real bad there, too.
Yeah.
And I had that tan for 2 years. So
Really?
Yeah, I had that tan for 2 years, that tank top tan.
We went out, we wore those tank top. You and I both wore tank top, and none of us put any sunscreen on.
No. It's because we're guys. We don't we do stupid shit.
And I was like a royal purple the next day. I remember it was so bad that I could like feel it in my bones and my joints. Like it was very weird. I was like really aware of where my bones were.
It was a lot of fun though. That's probably, well, I mean, really, that's like the only. I've been to like concerts and stuff before, and like, but like as far as like,
God damn,
is that hot?
That is hot. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Wesley got me a coffee this morning.
But
I ruined my mouth just now.
No, that's really like the first time I'd been to like I guess a festival. Yeah, music festival.
It's the first one I've ever been to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, every single one that they had in that lineup that day they were all awesome. They were all great because you had like Fuel, and you had Hell Yeah, and you had Bring Me the Horizon. And
we left before the big ones, before like the big headliners.
Yeah,
because I think Disturbed was supposed to be there that night.
Yeah, Disturbed was there that night.
Lamb of God was there the next night.
Yeah, there was somebody that died during their set.
Well,
in the mosh pit.
Hey.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Lamb of God. Yeah. The lead singer killed a guy during a show.
Yeah, there you go. Because I remember I was joking about that with somebody like previously, like a few days before, and I was like, they better watch out. Somebody's going to die during their set.
Yeah.
And then somebody did. And I was like, oh no. I was like,
fucking Metalocalypse over here.
I was like, it was like a premonition, like I made it happen.
Like your eyes, eyes rolled back in your head. You're like, oh.
It's like I'm directly responsible for this man's death.
You remember? It was about like 1:00 when people were starting to get to the point where like they were super dehydrated because nobody was drinking any water.
No, everybody's drinking beer.
Everybody was drinking beer. But, we're all 20 feet from the sun, and I remember. There was a point where, like, me and you, and I think Aaron, too, we're all, like, we're really sleepy.
Yeah, because we went and sat on that hill.
The three of us went and we laid down on that hill.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of people laying on that hill sleeping.
Yeah, a lot of people were sleeping.
It was like Nap Hill.
Yeah. Yeah, that was during the Hell Yeah set that we went over there.
Yeah.
Because I think that was like directly after the Bring Me the Horizon set, and that's when Aaron was saying that his knees were hurting him. And I think like right after that, that's when we sent him home.
I remember waking up because they were carting somebody off in an ambulance.
Well, there you go.
So
I remember that because I drank so much beer and I couldn't get drunk.
I know, because you're just sweating it right back out.
So I just felt awful. That's all I
Every
felt.
time you went and got beer, you were double fisting it. I remember me and you, after Aaron had left, me and you were still together, and then the Bring Me the Horizon set, the mosh pit started, and you just like
disappeared.
You just disappeared into it, like into a thick fog of people, and I lost you. And I didn't find you again until after the show, and you were like on the other side of the festival grounds.
Yeah.
And when I found you,
I was like covered in dirt and rocks and shit.
Dirt and rocks, and you were bleeding, and like you had a beer in your hand.
Yeah, I had like a big black eye the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I remember that because they were doing a circle pit. No, I take that back. They were doing the wall of death.
Yeah.
And there was like a dude that was in front of me, and he like turned around and he like these big eyes. He's like, "Let's fucking go!"
Yeah.
And then like as soon as we went, he like tripped and he just got trampled.
Oh my god,
that was so much fun. Anyway, I guess we should probably introduce ourselves again. It's been quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you bring us in?
Okay. Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of the Thicc... This is episode 5.
Yeah, this is episode 5.
The 5th episode of the Thicc Bois podcast. My name is Gary. This is my older brother, Wesley.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, so I want to apologize for the delay between this episode and episode 4. Things happen.
No.
And, it's schedules will do what they will. A good thing about it is, though, a lot has happened since episode 4.
Indeed.
Where did we start?
Can
we start with the siege of the Capitol?
Yeah, let's start there.
Can I just say, that fucking thing you tagged me in, the choose your own fighter, I was kind of like reading through that, and when I got to that fucking picture of the Berserker, that fucking killed me.
It's like filled with pain.
Yeah, it said filled with rage and spit, like in great pain.
In great pain.
That fucking picture of that guy, like it's just like it so perfectly encapsulates like the kind of rage that comes from like that was like William Wallace levels of just anger. It's so fucking funny because I'm just thinking like this dude is this upset at probably nothing.
Yeah. I have a strange take on kind of what happened. So, or at least my opinion, it's not really a take. I know what happened. So it's like the reason why they did what they did, I don't agree with. It's like, however, it's like I think it's important that our elected officials understand that they still work for us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like yeah, they shouldn't have did what they did. Like they shouldn't have gone up there and been jackasses and broken in and all this other shit. It's like, but at the same time, it's like, these are the same people that were bitching, moaning, complaining when everybody was rioting and shit in all the major cities.
Matter of fact, in episode 1 of the podcast, I called.
Yeah, we talked about it. Yeah, absolutely. And another thing is it's interesting to look at it from I don't want to say an outside perspective because it's not like I'm from another country or some shit, but I really don't, I don't fit into either one of these political parties. So it's interesting to see, like, when you look at the people on the right. So they were upset that, they were breaking into businesses and that kind of shit. And then you turn around and then, on the Democratic side, they get upset that people are breaking into like federal buildings and shit. It's just interesting to see the dichotomy. You know what I mean?
You mean like where the attention is turned?
Yeah, where the attention is, right? So, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of it's misplaced. I think what people need to understand is that there's a really good George Carlin bit from when he was in his later years, where he essentially said it's a big fucking club, and me and you aren't in it. And And he says it's the same club they used to beat you over the head every day to tell you what to believe.
Yeah.
So I think what a lot of people don't understand is that these large corporations and the elected officials in government, they work together.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they don't give a fuck about normal people.
Yeah, well the corporations are going to line the pockets of the politicians
Absolutely.
that are going to keep
all these lobbyists and everything in
that
Washington.
are going to keep their interests secured.
Well, and it's the same thing with all the wars in the Middle East. It's like you can follow the money. You can see why it is that we keep staying in these wars. If you look at, like, if you follow the 5-year project or the 5-year, whatever the fuck it is with the stock market, if you look at like Lockheed Martin and Boeing and everything, it's astronomically increased.
Well, I mean, war is like, look, the United States of America figured out in World War I that it is crazy, profitable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, even if you look at like World War II, because even in World War II, we didn't really want to get into it, right?
Yeah, in both World Wars, we kind of hung out till the very end.
Yeah. Whereas, like, if it hadn't been for Japan attacking us, I don't think we would have ever entered into World War II.
No, we were totally fine with selling weapons and just making money.
So it's interesting to look at it from that perspective, because you see, if you follow the money, you can. The thing that really irritates me, and I've never been a Democrat, but they've turned into just as bad a war hawks as the Republicans have. They're just as much pro-war as Bush and the rest of them were when they came through. So it's like, really, there is no party of peace anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, because it's so profitable.
Yeah, absolutely.
You look at that huge slice of cake that you get from this never-ending war, and you can't turn away from it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's the thing, though, is that it's profitable for the politicians, and it's profitable for the people who are making the weapons, but it's not profitable for the country.
No.
Because look at our defense budget, how much money that we spend every year on the defense budget.
Trillions.
Yeah. It's a lot of money. It's like, and I think last year, the federal government took in was like $3.6 trillion.
Yeah.
But we're still at a deficit. How?
Took in like...
In tax revenue. $3.6 trillion.
Wow.
And we were still operating at a deficit.
That's it? $3.6 trillion?
Yeah.
I would have figured it was way more than that.
But even still, $3.6 trillion, and you can't operate not at a deficit?
Yeah.
And that's for the federal budget. That's not taking consideration like state and local taxes. You know what I mean?
Just pissing away money.
Yeah, exactly.
Money that we don't have.
Yeah, because they do this thing where it's like, oh, we'll just print more. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll just print more, and we'll decrease the value of the dollar.
You're going to wind up like Zimbabwe and have a $2 trillion bill.
Exactly. Or end up like Venezuela.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, oh, just print more of it.
Yeah, just print more of it.
Yeah.
Never mind the fact that people are eating dogs and rats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, it's because I remember Allison texted me because I got off the plane in Toronto, and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then she sent me the article, and I was like, "Get the fuck out of here!"
Well, the Capitol being sieged. Yeah.
I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Yeah, and this might put me on a list when I say this, but I was kind of browsing Poll.
Yeah.
A few days before it all went down.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually when there's any like political discourse going on, I like to go on Poll for the memes.
Yeah.
Because there's always gold on there.
Yeah,
yeah. But I remember coming across a thread where they were kind of discussing going to the Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I was like, I was thinking this was going to be a thing where 500, 600 people show up, if that.
Yeah.
And they, kind of cause a scene, maybe break a thing and go home. Because historically, they've never really been able to kind of, get together the way the left has organized.
Yeah.
And when it comes to these types of things, the left is way more organized.
Yeah, that was the thing that was really, like, I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I was like, they got that many people together to do that?
And, so I didn't really kind of pay I didn't really heed it that much. But then, like, the day before, there was all these threads where people were like showing pictures of like their train tickets, their plane tickets, their, the stuff they were bringing.
Mm-hmm.
And then people were showing like hours before it took off. They were raising all the bridges and closing all the roads and stuff into DC.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this is actually like,
it's going to happen.
This is going to happen.
Yeah.
And then of course when it actually took off, the Capitol has never been sieged.
No.
Ever.
No.
And I was blown away that, for one, that it was these people who did it.
Yeah.
And also the surprising lack of readiness. There were a lot of D.C. police officers who said that, we've never received any crowd suppression training.
Yeah.
We've never...
Which is crazy.
Yeah, we've never...
Crazy.
Yeah. They're like, we've never even, ran a drill for this type of scenario.
No.
And I'm thinking, well, who the fuck is protecting the Capitol then?
No.
All these untrained police officers. And it's not the police officers' fault. They can only do what they've been trained to do.
Exactly.
But I would think, there'd be like a National Guard,
Oh, that was after the fact.
Installation, maybe around the clock or something.
No.
But all the pictures of like the people climbing the walls and, them inside the building.
No.
That one dude in Nancy Pelosi's office with his feet up on her desk.
No.
The dude walking away with a lectern.
No.
Now, we did get a lot of great pictures
Yeah.
out of that whole
Yeah.
that whole snafu, but there was a dude that stole a bunch of AOC's shoes. Probably some fucking degenerate foot fetishes.
Yeah. Probably.
He probably like stumbled in there and was just like, oh.
He's like, I'm going to jerk off into these later.
While watching her stream on Twitch.
Among Us.
But yeah, it was just really surprising. It wasn't something I ever thought that I would see.
No. At least not from the, I didn't think I'd see it from the right, just because, like you said, it's not that I didn't think that they would do it. I didn't think that they would be able to get organized enough to do it.
Yeah. And one of the things that really got me was all the backpedaling from people on the right. The people that were, shitting all over the BLM protests and the Antifa protests for going out and rioting and
yep. And then here you are doing the same thing.
And then here you are doing the same thing. And a lot of them were saying, well, this is different. This is
like, no, you're doing the same thing that you were.
Yeah. I mean, it's just your target was different.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm not trying to give a pass to either side because the rioting was uncalled for. It's always uncalled for.
Yeah. Both times. It was
both times.
Uncalled for.
I believe in your constitutional right to peacefully assemble.
Yep.
Anything beyond that is,
yeah.
I just can't. I can't back that.
You have to deal with the consequences of your actions.
And I understand that it's probably frustrating because when you're not making any noise, nobody's listening, right? So I mean, I get that, but I understand.
Yeah, I guess somebody should have told that to MLK.
Well. I understand all the people that are drawing the parallels between what happened at the Capitol and the BLM, riots or whatever. But I mean, they were just attacking. They attacked Target.
No.
Or AutoZone or burned down a Wendy's or things like that. You people stormed the Capitol building.
No.
And one of you got shot in the neck.
No.
Because you thought the Secret Service was just going to let you keep on with your foolishness.
Yeah, no.
And that's not what happened.
No.
But then, so the backpedaling I'm talking about is all the people now who are saying, well, it wasn't, true conservatives that were doing that. It wasn't, it was actually Antifa disguised as
I heard
people
that too.
on the right.
Yeah.
And the bad thing about, it is Antifa is kind of decentralized, so there is a little bit of possibility that there could have been some operatives within that, but I don't think that was entirely an Antifa thing.
No, it's not 2 million people.
No.
They were all Antifa.
Yeah.
Get out of here. That's not happening.
You're not going to tell me that the Berserker was an Antifa guy.
Yeah.
he was born of the right.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah, he's probably from like the northern portion of Idaho.
I'll be driving down the road, and I'll just think of that fucking picture of that guy's face and just start dying laughing. What can push a man to such vitriol? This fucking picture. Oh man.
We'll have to post that on the Facebook page. That way everybody can see it.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll need to start, Yeah,
we need to start being more active on there. I meant to post and say that we were going to be recording this weekend, but I got caught up with other stuff during the week. So
yeah, we maybe we'll look into doing some stuff like in between podcasts, just to put content out.
Yeah, we should do like some polls and stuff like that.
Yeah, things like that.
Kind of see what people want us to talk about.
Maybe we
can invite somebody on, have a guest. Maybe.
Yeah, we can have some guests on.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
We should. It would be funny if we just like tried to get like a really prolific guest, just like a shot in the dark, and they actually came on.
We should try to get Joe Rogan on.
Could you imagine Joe Rogan sitting down here in my torture chamber of a basement?
It'd be funny if we reached out to him and he's like, "Why don't you come on my show?"
I'd be telling Mary, like, "All right, me and Wes got to go to L.A."
Yeah. No, he's in Austin now.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh. I guess he got tired of. A lot of people from California moved out to Texas.
Yeah, a lot of them moving to Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the lockdowns and stuff. Like people are like, I can't make a living here anymore.
Well, even before the lockdown, California's cost of living was already sky high.
Oh yeah, I think like their state income tax was like 16 or 17%.
You're shitting me.
Yeah, it's that high.
Holy fuck.
Mm-hmm.
That's just
it's
state
super
income tax.
fucking high. Yeah.
Wow. And then you still got federal,
and then everything else that comes with it. Probably your property taxes.
You're looking at close to 45% of your income going away to taxes.
Yep.
That's insane. I couldn't live out there like that. And then I'm sure everything is, more expensive too.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Anytime I've ever been to like, if I go to like Fresno for work or something like that, everything's so much more fucking expensive.
That's insane. Is it the population density that drives that up? Because New York's the same way. New York's cost of living is very high. Also, well, they don't have as much real estate though.
I mean, I would assume just because the amount of utilities and stuff that you have to provide for people.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing though, is that Florida doesn't have a state income tax, like at all. Like you don't pay state income tax for Florida. And Florida, I think, is like the third most populous state in the nation.
Yeah.
Behind, I think, California and Texas.
Really?
No.
Well, they got to be getting that money back somewhere.
I'm not sure how they're doing it.
Maybe in sales tax.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, I don't see how it is that you could afford. You'd have to be making so much fucking money.
Yeah.
That 16% of it going away to state income tax,
it
doesn't hurt you.
You'd have to be making stupid money.
Yeah. I mean, well into the six figures.
Yeah.
Well into six figures.
That's crazy. Yeah. I think on between all my deductions and my taxes and whatever, I think I'm looking at about 28%. 28% of my check is what gets taken.
Yeah.
That's, between federal, state, benefits, blah, blah, all that stuff. I could imagine 5% or even 30, 2% more is like,
Yeah, it would break me.
Wow. That's insane. And then it's really easy to feel disenfranchised too, because you're like, well, okay, you're taking all this money from me. What do I get out of it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing though. That's my biggest thing with like raising taxes and everything. Is like, I'm not just going to give you money for the sake of giving you money.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want something in return.
I want to know what you're doing with it. I want to see where my money's going.
Yeah. It's like, don't take it from me. And then when I turn around and be like, well, what are you spending it on? And you're like, oh, well, you don't support poor people. It's like, no, I want to know where my money's going.
Yeah.
Like, there's potholes everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, you're not doing anything with this money that I'm giving you. You're sticking it in your pocket.
Yeah. Or you're giving it away to foreign interests.
Or you're giving it away to fucking Yemen or whoever it is for gender studies.
It was Pakistan.
Yeah, Pakistan. Yeah. Pakistani gender studies.
Wait.
Or who was it? It was like Jordan got like $100 million or some crazy shit like that.
Really?
Yeah. They got a bunch of money from the omnibus bill.
Wow. The one that was supposed to be like our relief package or whatever.
It's like, but you still haven't fixed the Flint, Michigan water thing. Like they're still dealing with that up there. But we're giving away $10 million to Pakistan for gender studies.
You know, when that whole Flint, Michigan thing, I guess because it's probably been going on for quite some time.
Yeah. It was going on under the Obama administration.
Right, but it had, like I'm saying, it probably went on before that because the Obama administration was when we all kind of learned about it, when it became like a prominent thing. The thing I keep hearing, or I kept hearing, was that it's too much of a financial strain to retrofit the utility system. And before I started working in utilities, I kind of was like, oh, well, that kind of makes sense. You know, it probably would be really, expensive to go and dig up all the old pipe and replace it and all this other stuff. Yeah. But now, knowing what I know now, I think that's bullshit.
Well, here's the thing. It doesn't matter. Fix it.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is that these are people who don't have access to clean water in the United fucking States. And I'm not talking about I'm not drifters or vagrants or anything. Yeah. These are
this isn't fucking Ethiopia.
Yeah, these are tax-paying.
Go fucking fix it.
Yeah, these are tax-paying, working, law-abiding citizens that have basically been forsaken by their own government.
Exactly.
And they're being denied a basic human right.
Absolutely.
In this country.
Mm-hmm.
For going on, that I know of, 6-7 years now.
It's probably been longer than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the craziest thing about that, too, was when Obama went up there and they, handed him a glass of water and he, drank it. It's obviously that's not the water that they got out of the tap.
He did that?
Yeah. It was, crystal clear water, and he, drank it. He's like, He's like, that's good water. And then
that's good Flint water.
Yeah, and then
it doesn't taste like poopy at all.
Yeah, it's obviously somebody poured that out of a fucking Dasani bottle, you jackass.
What if it was carbonated? Clearly it was Voss water or some shit.
Pierre water or whatever. It was La Croix.
La Croix.
He's like, tastes like lime.
I can't believe he did that.
Yeah,
that seems really out of character for him.
Yes,
he usually was. He wasn't very into that whole, that was a PR stunt thing.
Yeah.
That's something I would have expected Donald Trump to do.
Oh, yeah, Trump would have done
that. Was a Trump move for sure.
This is the best water.
This is the best water, and you'll never find better water anywhere else. I can't do a Trump impression.
I can't do it either.
But my Trump impression always comes out like a old Jewish lady. Your cousin Donald is the president. And you're just a heart surgeon.
Your cousin Teresa. That sounded like Mort.
What was it? Kyle's cousin Kyle?
Yeah.
On South Park?
Yeah.
He was like, I can't have red meat, it gives me gaze. Oh man!
God.
During the Obama presidency, at the time, I probably didn't. I didn't have the political. I'm just going to say political view then that I did now. But that being said, I did like him. I liked him because
as a person,
because he seemed like just a guy, he seemed like a guy's guy.
Well,
he never seemed. He seemed like somebody I could kind of relate to.
Yeah,
I could see myself having something in common with.
Yeah, that's the thing though. But the people that he ran against, Mitt Romney.
Yeah,
I can't.
Yeah, you're just some elitist that...
Or John McCain.
Yeah, you're just old money. I don't know.
Yeah. Me and you have nothing in common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was John McCain was a POW, wasn't he?
Yeah, for a few years, I think.
Wow. Was that Korean
in
War?
Korea,
wow.
I think. Yeah.
So they were probably sticking bamboo shoots up his ass and...
Probably.
Stuff like that.
Or was it fingernails or whatever the fuck it is?
Yeah, that may have been... Vietnam War.
Yeah.
I don't know. That I remember watching a documentary about like the Viet Cong and like all the booby traps and stuff that they would set up. Did you ever see like the punji pits with like the rolling spikes?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty ingenuitive, you know.
No.
But
That's
what a fucking way to go.
Yeah,
dude.
you want to talk about a generation that does not like Asian people?
I can see why.
Yeah, they do not.
I can
listen.
yeah.
I talked to my wife Allison. Her grandfather, he was in the Korean War, and some of the shit that he told me, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, that is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And he hated them. Mm-hmm. Like, till the day that he died. I think just because some of the shit that he saw.
Yeah.
He was like, he fucking hated them.
Wow.
It's like, and that's the thing, too. It's like, I think a lot of people, like, when you talk about, like, older generations and stuff like that, it's like, people are very quick to be like, oh, you know, this generation is, like, racist and shit like that. It's like, yeah, I mean, they were.
They grew up in a different world.
But they grew up in a different world, right?
That doesn't excuse them from being horrible to people.
No, absolutely not. But it's like...
But you have to understand
why you have to It's so like... It's like, I can't get upset with, like, an older black person that grew up during the Jim Crow era.
Yeah.
It's like, and they hate white people. Like, I'm... Like, if I just came up and, like, they automatically are like, I don't fucking like you, get away from me. Like, I'm like, oh, I understand.
Well, every interaction they've ever had with a white person during during their formative years, when their brain was developing, was a negative one.
Exactly. It's like, so I try to always understand it from the person's perspective.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That doesn't mean that...
I'm not excusing it.
I'm not excusing you for being a complete shithead to me.
Yeah.
But I understand where you're coming from.
Exactly.
I'm not going to interact with you anymore.
Well, it's the same thing. It's like when my daughter grows up, it's like she's probably going to look at some of the shit that I did or some of the shit that her grandparents did.
Yeah.
And she's going to be like, I don't agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I want her to understand. It's like, but you have to understand the era that somebody grew up in.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, also, you know, I don't know for sure, like, what kind of sociological, you know, atmosphere she's going to grow up in, because, I mean, things are way different now than they were when me and you were, you know, 10, 11 years old.
No.
You know, when you're developing your social skills, when you're kind of getting an idea of how, like, you know, social structure works and stuff like that. And this isn't stuff that's ever outright taught to you. These are things that you pick up on.
Yeah, we grew up during, like, Frosted Tips and Jinko jeans.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, I grew up in middle school where everything you did meant you were gay.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yesterday I played basketball. Like, that's gay.
Yeah.
You know, that
was a big one.
That was what you always had to deal with. But, like, kids nowadays are, like, really super aware of the fact that you shouldn't call people gay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, they're probably still awful to each other in other ways because kids are awful to each other.
Yeah, because kids are awful. Absolutely.
But, you know, that's just, like, a different thing. Like, it's like when me and you were kids, we wouldn't have been calling people the N-word because we knew that was not a cool thing to do.
Yeah, that's not acceptable.
Yeah, also you would get jumped in the hallway.
Yeah.
So, but...
I mean, would you get jumped in the hallway by a bunch of gay kids if you call somebody gay?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Probably nowadays. But I was talking to somebody about this the other day. It really seemed like there was kind of like this cohesiveness between different groups for like 2 or 3 years, like right around the 2011, 2012 era.
No.
And then when the social justice warrior thing really started taking off, and white people started deciding what black people should be offended by, and straight people started deciding what gay people should be offended by, it drove division between those groups, and that division is probably worse now than it has been in a long time.
I think so.
Just from what I'm seeing on the internet.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Is like, is the internet real life?
It's not, because
it's not. But at the same time, it's like some of the stuff is coming to fruition.
Yeah,
it's like the Capitol deal. It's like obviously like some of what happens on the internet. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean specifically like, you know, social things. So like, you know, I work in Atlanta a lot. Mm-hmm. Being in Atlanta, I interact with black people a lot.
No,
And in the past, aside from that dude who took a shit behind my truck, I've always had good interactions with people. People are nice. People are friendly. I'm talking like I'm on Donald Lee Howell Parkway, and that's a pretty rough area.
No.
People walk by, hello, good morning, how are you?
No.
It's not.
It's people.
They're just people. It's people. Yeah. Nobody's coming up to me and like shanking me in the ass and running my pockets.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that couldn't happen.
No, it could.
You're
in Atlanta.
I mean, in Atlanta, it could definitely happen.
It could happen by some white guy that's high on heroin.
Exactly. But the majority
looks like Kurt Cobain.
Yeah. But the majority of the interactions that I have are good interactions with people, and I feel like there's a lot to be said about what you put out is what you get.
Yeah.
So when you walk up to a stranger on the street or you pass a stranger on the street, hello, good morning, that's probably what you're going to get back.
No.
But if you shoot them like an ugly look and mumble under your breath, of course they're probably going to be like, hey, fuck you,
Yeah.
That's kind of how that is. Even with gay people, I had a lot of friends who were gay. No, that one, they're not straight now.
I had. They were.
I just, kind of lost touch with people over the years.
Yeah.
I think my social circle is probably like 3-4 people.
Yeah,
now.
Mine has tightened a lot.
Yeah, it's tightened a lot. But I mean, I still have
my family. That's essentially what it's come down to.
I still have a lot of love for them.
Yeah.
And me being a straight person, they never felt like I hated them or anything like that. So.
No. Well, that's the thing though, is like you should always judge people based on the content of their character.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like you should always be like,
that's
what is this? What is this person about? Are they a good person? Do they try to be a good person? You know what I mean? That's the most important part, because even if I don't agree with somebody on a lot of things, if I know that they're a good person, it's like I can let it go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like I know that you're not a shithead.
Yeah.
Because believe me, I know some shitheads, and I don't fucking associate with those people.
A lot of shitheads kind of have the same views on things that I do. Really makes you think.
Yeah, I know, right?
So, most of the people on Facebook that share my political views can't spell. And I'm just like, come on, man. But
yeah, that was really, I don't want to say that's the thing that, growing up and stuff, it's like our family has always leaned Republican. Like with our grandparents and everybody else. Yeah. But the more that I see it for what it is now is not what I believe what it was back then.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's why I have gotten away from that party.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not a Democrat at all.
Well, I feel like your core beliefs will usually stay the same.
Yeah.
And as the parties shift around, parties shift around your beliefs. You're not supposed to shift your beliefs with the party.
To the party. Exactly. That's what everybody's doing. I think we talked about this in episode 1.
Yeah, we talked about that in episode 1, but you do see that a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
I know, there were, and this is really kind of more of a recent thing, because the two examples I want to give are when Donald Trump, he kind of went after the Second Amendment after the, was it the Vegas shooting? That was in 2017, wasn't it?
No, I was still in the military when that happened. That was
it 2014?
I can't remember. What was that? I can't remember the incident that caused him to do that.
Well, he banned bump stocks.
Exactly.
Was the thing.
And I remember I brought that was on there was some gun trading group
it was in 2017,
yeah,
Las Vegas shooting.
In Jacksonville. There's like a Jacksonville gun trading group or whatever. They don't trade guns anymore, Facebook, so don't go after these people. But I remember after the election or whatever, all these people got on there, they were bitching and complaining. They're like, Biden's going to take away our guns. It's like Trump took away bump stocks, and then he also implemented red flag laws. Mm-hmm. I was like, it's not like he was this great purveyor of the Second Amendment either. So let's not act like.
And people still maintain that he was simply because he wore a red tie.
Exactly. And everybody's like, "Oh, well, you're not going to vote for him because of bump stocks." Or they're going to take away all your guns. I was like, "No, run a better fucking candidate."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
well, I wanted to compare that instance to. I remember during Obama's presidency, he spoke at like maybe it was a college, and colleges are typically very left leaning anyway. And it was on. He spoke about. Oh, it was. Do you remember this when they were trying to censor and ban a lot of books?
Mm-hmm.
When he spoke, he said that you can't shut down the opposing side and just live in an echo chamber.
No.
And he said that to a bunch of people who were, extremely left at this college, and they started booing him.
Yep.
And, he was supposed to be like their pariah, like their champion. And they immediately turned on him because that was a core value they believed in, and he opposed it. And they stuck, at the very least, they stuck by their core value. Yeah. They didn't say, "Oh yeah, he wears the blue tie. Whatever he says goes."
No, but the thing is like, that's not really liberalism.
No,
shutting down the other side is not liberalism. Being a true liberal, an old school liberal, means that you are open to hearing the other side's argument.
Yeah.
Conservatives have never been that way.
No.
Ever.
No.
Like, I remember growing up remember like the whole Doom thing, when all of them were bitching and pissing and complaining about Halo and Doom and all the video games.
Yeah, video games cause violence.
Yeah, cause violence and all that horse shit. Yeah.
They've always tried to find something to point fingers at, and because we want an easy answer.
Yeah,
we want to look at something and say that right there is the problem. That's what's causing the problems that we have. And so before it was video games,
it was music.
It was music. Before music, it was books. It was people used to think that people listening to the radio was a problem. And you should listen to newspaper, or you should read newspapers instead. And it's always the new thing. Yeah.
I think I remember Dad told me this one time. He said, anytime that you point the finger, he's like, you got three more pointing right back at you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's much easier. Like I said, it's much easier to point at something,
to look outward than to look inward.
Yeah. People aren't introspective.
Nope.
And it's hard to be introspective.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's hard to. I don't want to say it's hard to be introspective. I feel like people are naturally introspective and are aware of their own shortcomings. However, it's easier to blame it on something else than it is to say, okay, I'm going to finally, take a look at my issues and take responsibility for them. Hell, I do it. Here I am talking about it. I do that shit almost every day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody does it, right? Yeah. Everybody has this natural inclination to believe that you are correct.
Yeah,
100% of the time.
Yeah.
Right. I do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like every day, like twice a day on Sunday. Like, you know what I mean? It's difficult. It's easy to do it when you're alone, to kind of do some self-reflection, but it's hard to it's hard to vocalize it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, self-reflection is kind of a vulnerable thing anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're taking inventory of, who you are, and you're kind of laying it out and taking a look at it. And, this is going to sound cliche and cheesy, but you're probably not going to like what you see.
No.
There's so many parts of who you are as a person that have, gone unchecked and have kind of festered into something that's not good.
Yeah.
And if you never, it's like a weed. If you never cut the weed or pull the weed out, it'll grow and it'll choke everything out.
Yeah. I mean, and that's to kind of bring it back to around what we were talking about. I think a lot of people do this thing now with political candidates where they've turned a political candidate into almost like an idol.
Yeah.
Right? So like Obama on the left was like the great, I don't want to say he was like Jesus to them.
He was like their champion.
He was their champion. Yeah. And it's the same thing with Trump. People worship Trump. Yeah. People worshipped Obama.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, but you can't do that, because they're a person and they're a flawed person.
Mm-hmm.
There's never going to be somebody who isn't flawed.
Right.
Like you have to understand that it's just a person.
You also have to understand that the president is the most powerful person in the world.
Yeah.
And really think about what that means. Think about the most batshit insane person that you know. Now they're the president. And that's probably not a good feeling.
No.
So more than anybody, the president is the person you should scrutinize the most.
Absolutely.
And
all the time.
All the time.
Whether you support them or not.
Everything they say, everything they do, you need to put it under a microscope.
Yep.
Because, I mean, literally,
they are the leader of the free world.
Yeah, with the snap of their fingers, they could bring the whole bitch down.
Yep.
If they wanted to, they really could. I mean, like, not even thinking about like the nuclear football. That's like a very barbaric way to go about it. But if they wanted to, they could completely pull a paradigm shift and change the world for the worst. Really, that's the easier direction to go. It's not easy to change the world for the better.
No,
that takes everybody.
No,
it's like we said, peace requires both sides. Chaos requires one.
No.
They could affect the economy. Oh, who can affect the economy? Apparently Reddit.
Potato in my ass.
We need to talk about that.
We do need to talk about it. Let's do it.
I know probably mostly everybody's already aware to some degree of the GameStop Wall Street thing. But in the event that you're not, there was a guy that wrote an article about GameStop, saying that GameStop is an outdated model and they're not long for this world, which truly, let's be honest, they really aren't.
Yeah.
GameStop's whole business model does not fit in the world that we live in.
No.
The people don't go out and buy physical copies of video games. Mm-hmm. I haven't in years.
No. It's like I use Steam for everything.
Yeah, well, yeah. Everything's downloadable, everything's digital. Everything's downloadable, digital, streamable. Mm-hmm. There's really no reason to have a physical copy of anything anymore, unless you're a collector.
No.
But those people are so few and far between that's not going to keep a business afloat.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, point is, he writes this article about how GameStop is going into the shitter. And when he did that, a bunch of Wall Street hedge funds started shorting the stock. And from what I understand, that means that they borrow stocks from a broker. And then when they
essentially wait for it to start.
They want the stocks to go down.
Exactly.
Which is what that article said would happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know the specifics behind it, but essentially they put money down and bet that it would go down. Well, the fine folks over at r/Wall Street Bets saw this and said, hey, what if we drove the price way up?
Mm-hmm.
And they did. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand the actual magnitude of people that it takes to drive a stock up that way.
Well, and the thing too is like you need just enough to start bumping it.
Yeah.
And everybody goes, "Oh fuck," and they all start buying, right? So you create a panic.
So I think it was at like -68, and then like within a week it was up.
It went up to $340.
$340. I think it peaked at 400 something, didn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. So
yeah. Hey, how about next time y'all decide to do that? You let me know.
Give me a heads up.
Yeah, give me a fucking heads up, you jackasses.
Hey, I got about 100 shares of gifted stock in GE. Can we do GE next? But so they drive the price of the stocks up. Well, then when it comes time to pay the broker back,
they don't have the money.
You don't have the money.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, they actually shorted more stocks of GameStop than existed.
Yep.
Which that in itself is like,
a big problem. Yeah.
Yeah, that's clearly an issue.
Yeah.
So all these Wall Street hedge funds are out billions of. It
was $5 billion altogether.
Was it really?
$5 billion.
Wow.
Yep. And that was last week when I checked.
Wow. So the reason that this is a historical event is what it is.
Well, the thing is too is like we should also cover this is that like Robinhood and some of those apps like that.
Yep.
Is they essentially were forced selling people's stocks. So like if you bought in and like people kept wanting to buy in to drive the price up,
and they were holding.
Yeah,
stocks.
Robinhood was like, you can't buy, and then they started force selling.
They took the option to buy off.
Yep.
Which is illegal.
Yep.
And the CEO gave this kind of runaround explanation of why they did that. And I think within like a couple of hours of them doing that, a class action lawsuit was filed because it was so brazenly illegal.
No.
You know, and the story of Robinhood was steal from the rich and give to the poor.
No.
Right? Robinhood, the app Robinhood, or the service was supposed to be a way for everyday people to dip their toes into a free market. No. Well, then we found out that it's not free.
Well, that's because they were run by Citadel.
Yeah.
Which is a hedge fund.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah.
Basically what happened is it brought a lot to light.
Yeah.
That I don't think the people over on Wall Street ever expected.
Yeah.
Could happen.
Well, that's the thing is like if you can get the numbers, right? If you can get the massive amount of people to do what it is that you want them to do, it's like you can drive the price of any stock up.
Yeah, that was another thing. That's something else that they realized.
Yeah.
That they have the power to band together and skyrocket those stocks.
To the moon.
To the moon. Diamond hands. I remember I kind of started browsing the Reddit after it all started going down to kind of get an idea of what was happening. And this one dude put his life savings into GameStop years ago. And he's like got $22 million worth of GameStop stocks now.
Yeah.
And he's holding.
Oh, no, don't do that.
I don't know if he's doing it for the meme.
Yeah.
I feel like he really does believe that this is...
Yeah, bro, get out.
Yeah, dude, get out, man.
Get out. Sell.
You were like $60,000 in the red 2 weeks ago. Sell, please.
Sell. Please, God, sell. Get out and go be a millionaire.
Yeah, just live comfortably.
Yeah.
$22 million. Oh, the fucking Powerball here recently was up over $1 billion.
Yeah.
I've only ever seen that once before. That was back in like 2013 or 14. No. Somebody in Mississippi won it.
Yeah, talking about...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cheap to live there.
Yeah. I want to say they won... I think before it was taxed, it was like $400 million. Because there were a lot of winners like on the smaller amounts. But after... So I'm pretty sure what happens is they all get paid first. And then the remainder goes to whoever hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
And then that gets taxed, which is like 40%. That's a lot.
Yeah. But even still, if you win $400 million,
400,
like that's still, even if they take 50%, that's still $200 million.
Yeah.
Like,
you're already
that's a lot of fucking money.
Yeah. That puts you in the 1%.
Yeah. Well into the 1%.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine, living the life that I live now.
Yeah. And then somebody all of a sudden, like, you look like tomorrow and there's like $200 million in your bank account.
Yeah. And not to say that I'm not like living in squalor or anything, but, that's a whole different reality.
Yeah.
That kind of money. You're talking about generations of your family set up for life. That's the kind of money that makes money.
Yeah.
It's just you have just hundreds of thousands of dollars of passive income coming in every month with that kind of money. Just sitting there making money.
Yep.
You never have to be...
Oh, I would immediately, like, all blue chip stocks, like Walmart and fucking Google and Berkshire Hathaway, like, it's stuff that I know it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, things that, even though I hate that it is way too big to fail.
No.
Yeah.
But with money like that, it's like you have to protect your money.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put it in shit that I know is not going anywhere.
Right. You wouldn't have to be one of the millions of Americans who get bankrupted by a single medical expense.
Exactly.
I couldn't imagine. Take for instance when I blew my thumb off. If I didn't have insurance, that would have ruined me.
No.
And I probably wouldn't have had my thumb.
Even broken thumbless.
Yeah, broken thumbless. I remember So I blew my thumb off, and then a week later, I blew my thumb off. They sewed it up. They sewed it back up. A week later, I went back to the hospital, and they wanted to take the bandage off and see if it had healed. And I was like, in a week?
No.
Like, I remember looking at my bone.
No.
You know?
I don't think we're there yet.
I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I can feel that it's not there yet.
Yeah.
You know, I've been high on Percocet for a week. Yeah. It's not there.
Yeah, I've been trying to deal with the pain.
Oh my God, the night that happened, I was trying to sleep.
It's probably unbearable.
And it wasn't bad because they had gave me morphine before I left the hospital. But by the way, you guys, I don't know if you've ever had morphine. I get it, you guys. I get why heroin is so fucking popular. Because I had the IV in my arm.
Yeah.
And they came in, they're like, we're going to give you some morphine before you leave to, kind of help you stay on top of the pain.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And I watched him, push the plunger or whatever. And it's like from the top of my head, just like this warm, just like all the way down to my toes. And I was like, that was the most incredible thing I've ever experienced in my life. But anyway.
They did the same thing with me when I broke my ribs.
Was that when you got hit with the shot put?
Yeah, when I got hit with the shot put.
Okay, can we talk about that next?
Yeah,
I talked about that with Mom and Dad the other day. I wanted to ask you about that. But that night that, so the night that it happened, I was trying to get some rest, and I got like a twitch, and my thumb flexed.
Oh no!
And that woke me up. That was
I'd imagine.
That was the second worst pain I've ever felt.
No.
The worst pain I ever felt was when my thumb had healed and they went to take the stitches out because the dude that stitched me up just tied my thumb up like it was a shoe.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just like, it was just knots all the way across. As a matter of fact, if you look at my thumb in the right light, you can see there's still a stitch under there.
Yeah. He's like singing the SpongeBob loop-de-loop
song. You do a loop-de-loop and poo, and your thumb is looking cool. Yeah, but when they were pulling those stitches out, that was the worst pain I have ever experienced. That was worse than when I cut my tongue and they sewed it back up.
Oof.
Mary said that I was just white as a ghost.
No.
And I was sweating. And I really it started like the voices in the room went from like, yeah, so after, like, I was like, oh my God. That was fucking terrible. I hope I never experienced the actual thumb getting blown off. I wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Because, I had shock and adrenaline going and everything. But sewing it back or getting the fucking stitches out, oh my God. It was awful. Anyway, you were almost a paraplegic.
I was.
Can you tell that story? I never heard your voice, your version of that. So
for those of you that don't know, I received this wasn't the initial scholarship that I was under. I transferred schools to go to Kennesaw State, and I was on the track team there. So I think it was like in November, maybe December time frame. I was at practice. I threw the shot put, and I had just thrown, and I went out to go get my shot put.
How far out were you from the circle?
Probably a good 55 feet.
A fair distance.
Yeah, it was a fair distance. This girl had never thrown that far before.
Yeah.
And so I didn't think anything of it. And I bent down to grab my shot put. And I remember because, who was it? Was standing in front of me? It wasn't Tyler. It was somebody else.
And now I'm sure most people know what a shot put is, but in case you don't, it's just literally just a solid ball of metal.
A solid ball of metal.
Like 16 pounds.
So I think the girls is like 4.4 kilograms, which is like 8-something pounds. I can't remember.
Basically a cannonball.
Yeah. So, no, it's 4 kilograms because it's 8.8 pounds, I think. So, I bent over to pick mine up, and when I stood up, I saw the guy in front of me, his eyes got real big, and then it's almost
like a slow motion.
Yeah, it's almost like somebody, it's hard to explain because it didn't feel the way I thought it would feel. It's almost like somebody took me open hand. And just shoved me as hard as they could.
And just force,
right in my bottom 2 right ribs.
Ooh.
And just
the 2 little ones.
Yeah, it hit, I dropped it, and I kind of ran forward a little bit, and I was like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
And then, all of a sudden, it hurt to breathe.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh fuck. I was like, what did I just get hit by?
Yeah.
And I turned around, everybody's just standing there looking.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm just going to walk it off. Like, I'm just going to walk.
I bet you thought.
Yeah. I was like, I'm just going to try to walk. I was like, I don't think it's as bad. Like, obviously, I'm still walking around. So it's not as bad as I thought it was. Or
that's not a baseline for how injuries go.
Yeah, but I think at that point, it's like the adrenaline had set in.
Yeah.
So I remember going, and there was like a hill, like back behind the ring, and I like sat down, and I couldn't get comfortable. Like I would lay down, and it hurt, and I'd sit up, and it hurt.
Yeah.
And I was walking around, it just hurt.
Yeah.
And so I remember I called Allison, and I said, "Hey, I said they're taking me back to go see the trainers.
Yeah.
I got hit with a shot put." And she was like, "What?" I was like, "Just meet me up at the school."
Yeah.
I was like, "You're gonna probably have to take me to the hospital."
Yeah.
And so this, by the way, this is a long story, so everybody sit tight. So I get up there, and she comes and gets me, and we go to Kennestone in Marietta.
Where's that? Is that?
That's the one you went to when you broke your arm.
Oh, yeah.
So we get to the waiting room, or I take that back. We went somewhere else. And I remember we like got out of the car, and by that point, like it was just like this dull pain.
Yeah.
Like constant dull pain in my back. Like back where those two ribs were at.
Yeah.
And I got out of the car, and we went in, and it wasn't the ER, it was somewhere else. And they were like, you need to take him to the ER.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up going there, and we went in, and we got checked in, and there was somebody else that was in the waiting room next to us, and they were up like walking around, and they kind of sat down, they were bending over and all this other shit. And then they were like, somebody was like, "Oh yeah," they were like, "Oh yeah, I broke my ribs." And they were like, and like while I'm like like white as like a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
And like I'm sweating.
Yeah. Just because of the pain.
Yeah, because of the pain. And then finally they like get me back there, and they take like my they like get my pulse and everything. And I think I was at like, it was like 41 beats per minute or something like that. Like it was super low.
Wow.
And
I wonder why your body did that.
I just shock, I guess. Like everything's like, hey, we need to slow down. Like, so I got back there, and they started giving me like, they gave me Finnergan or something like that. I can't remember what it was that they gave me.
It wasn't fentanyl, was it?
No. And so I think we were in the waiting room for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Until we finally got back there, and they started giving me like drugs to try to help with the pain and everything.
Yeah.
And then they ended up taking me back. They did the MRI and all that stuff. And I remember the doctor came in, and the doctor was like, he's like, "You got really lucky." He's like, "Cause had that been 2 inches to the left, he's like, you'd been paralyzed."
Oh yeah.
He's like, it'd hit you right in the spine.
That'd have been it.
He's like your legs probably wouldn't be working.
And that kind of force may have even severed your spinal cord.
Yeah. And he's like, however, he's like, you have blood in your urine. He's like, it bruised your kidney.
Oops.
And I was like, oh fuck. And then, but even then, like how much medicine they had given me, I was still feeling it.
Yeah.
And so,
once your pain gets like that, it's hard to get back on top of.
Yeah. So, and I remember Allison telling me, because they gave me an IV and they gave me something else, and I don't remember what it was. And I remember I was so tired, and I was like, I'm just gonna close my eyes for a second. And I closed my eyes, and then like I woke up, and the doctor's like standing over me, like with the flashlight, like shining into my eyes.
Oh shit.
And Allison like was looking worried, and the doctor's like, "Oh, thank God." He's like, I thought we just put you into a medical induced coma.
Oh, fuck. We gave you a cocktail of so many drugs.
Yeah.
We thought we just put you under.
And I remember because like I got up like after that. This is about the end of the story, but I got up after that, and like we were checking out everything. And I remember like I was so hungry because I hadn't eaten since like breakfast that morning. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning at this point. And so like they gave me like a pack of crackers or something just to kind of till we could get somewhere to get something to eat.
Yeah.
And I remember like I dropped some on the ground. I was like bent over and picked them up. Like I couldn't feel shit. I couldn't feel nothing.
Gave you something really good.
So that's sort of my story. So I'd almost be sitting here in a wheelchair if it was if that had been a little bit to the left.
That's crazy. You really did
I got super lucky.
Super lucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that would have been awful if that would have hit you in the spine.
Yeah.
Or God forbid, if you were still bent over and I gave the shot put enough clearance to hit you in the back of your fucking head.
Yeah, that killed me.
That would have killed you.
Yeah.
Well, it's a game of inches, when it comes to injuries like that.
Game of inches.
Like when I cut my thumb off, what I was doing was I was using a pneumatic cutting wheel. It's an air tool, and it's like got a circular blade that spins, and the blade itself is made out of super compressed, dense paper is essentially what it is. You can use it to cut metal and stuff like that. And,
I've seen them before. I know exactly which ones you're talking about.
Well, I was trying to sharpen a scribe tool with it.
No.
Well, that blade spins at like 60,000 rotations per minute. I mean, the thing's moving. And when I pressed down on the end of that scribe, it threw the rotation of it off, so it was wiggling.
No.
It was waving at 60,000 rotations per minute, and then it just came apart.
Yeah.
That very easily could have hit me in my fucking jugular or in the eye. Or anything like that.
Lost your eye.
Yeah, it just so happened to hit me in the thumb. And I was even lucky where it hit me on my thumb.
No.
Because it hit me above the knuckle, which caused the knuckle to break away.
Yeah.
If it would have hit me below, the thumb I would have lost that thumb.
Yeah.
I'd have been gone. It would have been Dunyan rings.
Yeah. It's always fun talking about injuries.
I want to talk about Mikey.
Oh, yeah. Shout out Mikey.
Shout out to Mikey. Mikey is one of my
microwave hot dog fingers.
Mikey's one of my longtime friends. Known him ever since I was little and love him to death. He injured his fingers.
I think injured is
too light of a term.
It is too light of a term.
So I was actually at home recovering from when I blew my thumb off. And I get a text from Mikey that said, "I win." And I'm like, "Win what?"
Yeah.
And then he sends the picture. And it was on his right hand, and his left finger, his index finger, and his middle finger. It looked like somebody took a jelly-filled eclair and smashed it with a hammer. There was like finger guts blown out both ends. It looked like when you microwave a hot dog for too long and it splits down the side. It was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. And
awful.
He ended up losing the.
Did he pass out when that happened? He'd had to have passed out when that happened.
I don't know if he did or not.
I would have passed out.
I would have too. Yeah, absolutely.
They came and found me passed out with my fingers
stuck in the machine. He ended up losing his index finger completely, and I think half of his middle finger. And he's explained to me a couple times exactly what happened, but from what I understand, he was working on some machine, and I'll have to get Mikey to explain it better, but he's working on some machine that I think pressed electrodes into
the tracks,
and the purpose of it is that's what senses when the train's coming and tells the arms to go down. Mikey, if you're listening and I'm fucking this up, I'm so sorry, but this is my recollection of it. And he reached into the machine to adjust like a pad or to adjust something, and the machine started closing. And from what I understand, it does it in two moves. The first move, it moves down quickly, and then the last one is like
finishes
a really slow, forceful, like completes the cycle or whatever. So what happened was Mikey got pinned in the first move, and he said that he felt the bones in his fingers break, and his fingers are stuck in this machine. And then it starts to do the slow press.
Oh no!
So he just had to watch like a fucking Saw movie. Watch his fingers get pancaked in front of his face.
And it's probably like at that point he's probably like so in shock. He's just like watching it happen. He's probably not even turned away.
Just like
he's like he's like, this cannot be happening. You would think there'd be like some type of like e-stop or something on that.
Yeah, you would think. Well, me and you, we worked around the CNC machines. Those had emergency stops and stuff.
Yeah.
And those things could take your fucking head off if you weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
Especially that little mill.
Yeah.
That the way it changed tools was it had like that hook that swung it.
Wham, wham, wham.
But so Mikey, he sent me several pictures like during the process of him healing or whatever, and there was one where they put his finger back together, and then they were trying to get the blood flow going again and everything like that. At least on the rest of his middle finger. I think they immediately got rid of the index. That one was still
they're like, we can't do anything.
It was just mush. There was nothing they could do with it. And his skin was like black. It was dead. It was just dead skin. And, I just couldn't imagine. And he was telling me that that he was in a lot of pain after he had gotten to the hospital and everything. And it started to set in. His body started to, I guess, shock started wearing off. And they gave him... not morphine, something with a D. I don't remember what it was called. Mm-hmm. But the way Mikey explained it, it was like if morphine is a McDouble, this stuff was like a double Whopper.
Yeah.
And he said that they gave it to him, and he just it was like that. He was just like immediately just in a different world.
Yeah. Does he still get like where like people like lose their arm and everything?
Oh, phantom pain.
Yeah, phantom.
I don't know. It probably does.
I would imagine, especially probably right after that.
Yeah.
Like he probably I would imagine
the body hasn't learned yet.
Yeah, I would probably imagine like if you like lost a finger or something like that, like you'd probably like go, especially like to grab something.
Yeah.
And then like you forget, you're like, oh, you know.
Oh yeah, that's my new world.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I wonder if it kind of messes with your head a little bit.
I would imagine that it would.
You know what I mean? Like on a psychological level, to be missing a part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, granted, there's thankfully for him, it was just he didn't have like his whole fucking hand in there or something,
exactly. He didn't,
or his whole arm or something. Yeah. But think about people who get like surfers who get bit by like sharks and stuff and lose a whole
your
leg.
Fucking leg. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're not getting the leg back. The shark's already eating it.
Yeah,
it's
gone.
Your leg's going to be poo in a little while.
Yeah, it's down the shark's gullet. You're not getting that back.
Yeah, think about that.
So, like, I know,
your part of you is poo now.
Yeah. So I work in the food processing industry, and I went to a facility one time. We had done an installation, and one of the pieces of equipment that got put in is it separates like like a whole leg, like a chicken whole leg with the thigh and the drum attached.
Yeah.
So one of the pieces of equipment was like this real big blade, right? And so the leg is like hanging in this shackle.
Yeah.
And then as it goes across, it like lifts the thigh up and creates like a right angle.
Yeah.
And then this blade cuts through it. So you get the separation between, you get the thigh, it goes down and gets taken off, and then the drum goes elsewhere. Somebody thought it was a good idea to stick their hand up in those shackles as it was going across that blade, and it cut all 4 of their fingers off.
Like it wasn't even there.
Like it wasn't even there. And I remember walking through the plant, and I see this person run by me holding 4 fingers in one hand and just a bloody mess of this other hand. And I was like, what the fuck? And they immediately stopped the line because like there's like blood and shit like everywhere, and they had like come and clean all that shit up and everything.
Yeah.
But that's the most horrific injury I've seen in the job that I work.
Yeah.
It's just this person running by was just like this club. The club and a thumb. And then 4 fingers in this hand like running. And it wasn't where we were at. There was not really like a hospital around anywhere.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they got them fingers back on. At least it was like in a blade that's pretty sharp.
Yeah, so it was a clean cut.
It's probably a clean cut.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They didn't get smashed off.
Yeah.
In my line of work, people have to dig big, deep holes.
Mm-hmm.
And when you dig a big, deep hole, you have to put a thing called a trench box inside of it, which keeps the sides of it from collapsing in on you. And I've seen, when you get, orientation and stuff like that, they show you all the videos of, what can happen to you when it collapses in on you or something like that. But there was a guy, they had a 12-foot deep hole, and they were working on something down there. And the guy who got injured, he was standing at the top of the hole.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a heart attack or maybe like a heat stroke or something like that.
Oh.
And he fell forward into the hole.
Mm.
And he was a large fellow. He's probably like 350 pounds.
Mm.
And he landed on his head. And he ended up living. I mean, he's back to work now. And this was probably like 2 months ago. Now, granted, he had a lot of healing that he had to do.
Yeah.
Because he was a bigger guy. He was an older guy.
Yeah.
But they say that what saved him was the fact that his body was limp when he hit the ground.
I would imagine, yeah.
And they say that that's, a lot of times when drunk drivers get in crashes or whatever, that saves them. The fact that they're drunk and they're limp.
Yeah.
Because when
they don't tense up.
Yeah, when you're sober and you see something coming, your whole body just squishes, locks up, and that, that makes the impact that much more worse. But he landed on his head.
Hey, imagine to break his damn neck.
You would think 12 feet down,
sever his fucking spinal cord.
Yeah, and it almost kind of seems like the rules are inconsistent.
Yeah,
because at the job or the company that I worked for before, we had a guy who fell. He was sitting down on a tailgate of a truck, and he fell off and landed on like the side of his head.
No,
or kind of hit the pavement or whatever, and it just about fucking killed him.
That's not that far to the ground.
This other guy fell 12 feet head first.
Yeah.
He lived.
You're like, what the fuck?
So,
this makes no sense.
I remember a long time ago, there was a Facebook Live video of these three people sitting in a car. And, they were acting all gangster or whatever, and, like, the girl had a gun, and she's waving it around, and they're screaming into the phone or whatever. And she just turns and shoots the guy next to her in the head.
I remember that. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And his head just falls over like this, and the contents of his head start pouring out of the hole. And he lived. What?
Yeah.
How do you get shot in the fucking brain and you live?
Yeah, there's nothing going on up there.
Yeah, I guess. And then you take a normal ass fall.
Yeah.
And it kills you outright.
Yeah. It's like, oh, don't worry, I'm using the back half of this brain. I don't need that whole front half.
There's all dead space up here. It's wild. The human body is pretty impressive. It's like when there's like so many sweet spots too, right?
No.
Like, where you can be shot or stabbed, and it misses a bunch of vital organs by fractions of inches.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when there's a large blood vessel in your tongue that you can very easily bleed out of. And I'm glad that I didn't know that when I cut my tongue.
Exactly, because you'd have been in a panic.
Yeah, I was already panicking enough. You know what's so funny about that story is
Mama all telling you to go away.
It was in 5th grade. And me and my buddy Zach were swimming at my grandma's pool, and I had this long plastic tube. I don't even know what it came from, but I was sucking up pool water and spitting it out the other end of this tube. Well, my buddy Zach had a big exercise ball, and I went to spit water at him, and he threw the exercise ball at me.
You hit it right on the end of that
and
tube.
He hit the end of the tube, and the other end of the tube that was in my mouth jammed into my tongue.
Yeah.
And it went
essentially cut your fucking tongue loose.
It went so far into my tongue that I had to pull it out with force. And I just, so it just cut my tongue loose.
Yeah.
And I'm just bleeding like crazy out of the mouth. And I'm freaking out. I'm a little kid.
Yeah.
I'm freaking out. I'm like, I got to find an adult.
Yeah.
I was like, I went to the back door of our grandmother's house, and I banged on the door, and she comes out, and she's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm just like, with fucking blood pouring
she's
out
like,
of my
I'm
face.
too old to deal with this. Go away.
And I just remember her very calmly handing me a rag, and she goes, "Go tell your mom." I was just like, okay, I should probably tell Mom. And so our grandmother lived right next door to us. And so me and Zach are walking back to my house, and he's like, "Man, I am so sorry." He's like, I'm really, really sorry. And I kept trying to say, "It's not your fault." But I had a rag in my mouth.
Floppy tongue.
So I was going, "It's all your fault." And, yeah, so Mom, I got there and, like, ruined Mom's day.
Yeah,
like,
I remember that because he, like, sat down with me after that. And he's like, he kept saying it was all my fault. I was like, I don't think that's what he was saying. I was like, he's probably telling you it's not your fault.
Yeah. But,
yeah, he's like, he kept saying it was all my fault.
I hope that didn't, like, fuck with him. Like, he went to bed that
for,
night.
like, years and years.
Yeah.
Like, he thinks about it constantly.
But, yeah, we got to the hospital, and they had to sew my tongue back on. That was... I remember because Pawpaw was there, and he walked in, and when they started sewing my tongue back on, I started screaming, and he just left the room. He was like, "Nope." Not dealing with this.
Oh, good.
Injuries are, you just never know what you're going to get.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I remember, I always had this kind of irrational fear of waking up during a surgery.
Oh, yeah.
And the only surgery I've ever had was when they, I had all that shit
Dental
going on with my
surgery,
teeth.
yeah.
I had my adult incisors never came in. Like in 10th grade, I still had baby teeth there.
Mm-hmm.
Because the teeth on either side of them grew in at such an angle that the baby teeth couldn't come out.
Mm-hmm.
So they were rotting in my head.
Yeah.
It never got, like, awful, but it was starting to get there, like, okay, we got to do something about this. And the one on the right side of my mouth, it ended up coming in at such an angle, the adult tooth, ended up coming in at such an angle that they didn't have to do anything. They just let it come right in.
Mm-hmm.
The one on the left side of my mouth grew, like, parallel with my tongue in the roof of my mouth. Like, way off.
Fuck?
Yeah. And they're like, we can't leave it there because, like, the roots will extend into your sinuses.
Yeah.
And so what they ended up doing was they pulled the baby teeth, they gave me braces, and attached a chain from the braces to the tooth that was in the roof of my mouth.
Yeah, to pull it down.
To pull it into place. And over the course, it was a long time.
No, I remember that was a long time.
That was 10th grade, and I got them off like a few months before we got married.
No.
And over the course of time, they would just they would tighten the chain up, and it would pull the tooth into place.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when they did all that to me at the same time, they're like, while we're in here, we're going to go ahead and take your wisdom teeth out.
No.
And apparently when you go to have surgery, there's like a baseline amount of anesthesia they give people.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't really know
what your tolerance is.
What your tolerance is or how you'll react. And, I mean, it put me under pretty quickly. They did that whole thing, count backwards from 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was looking up at, like, the fluorescent lights or whatever, like, with the cover on it. And I was like, 10, 9, And I just remember, like, seeing the lights just, like, they were, like, spinning, and then all of a sudden they were gone.
Was it like you were in, like, a dream state, or was it you just, like, woke back up?
Oh, it was like an immediate time skip.
No.
Because I woke up during the surgery.
Mm.
Thankfully, I was just, like, I just woke up, and I didn't feel anything that was going on. But at the point that I woke up, they had just started working on taking my wisdom teeth out. Mm-hmm. And the way they take your wisdom teeth out is
pretty barbaric.
Yeah, it really is. Dentistry as a whole is pretty barbaric. Yeah. They cut the flesh out or whatever to expose the tooth. Mm-hmm. And they take a hammer and chisel and they crack it in half and they pull it out in halves.
Yep.
Well, I woke up at the time that he was hammering on my teeth. Mm. And I remember I woke up and my head was going like this. It was like shaking. And there was a nurse who was standing there, and she was looking down like at my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember she looked over at me and my eyes were like, I was just looking at her.
Yeah.
And she, like, without even missing a beat, she just goes, beep, 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 beep on this machine. And then I just was like, it went right back out. Yeah, but it took me a long time to recover from that. Matter of fact, I started college 2 weeks after, and I had gauze and shit all packed in my mouth. So your first year of college is always those classes like, let's go around the room and introduce ourselves.
Yeah, like,
I'm like, hold. I have a bloody mangled mess of a mouth.
I remember when they pulled one of my incisors out, because I think my adult incisor on the left side was coming down, but the baby tooth wouldn't come out. Yeah. So I had like 2 teeth. Oh. So I was like a fucking shark.
And, like an extra row of teeth.
Yeah. And so I remember they went in and the guy he's like, okay, we're not going to put you under. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay. What? Yeah. So they gave me, what's the numbing agent that they use? Yeah. So they essentially gave me, I think it was 12 shots in the front.
Jesus.
And like 10 in the roof of my mouth. And I was awake the entire time. And the guy takes like a saw and like sticks it in my mouth and like cuts it in half. And then he starts yanking on it. So like my head is like coming up off the thing. And so and the dental hygienist is like got both of her hands like on my shoulders, like pushing me back against like the chair. And I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Am I being tortured?
Like, thank God I can't feel any of this. I was like, I don't know why the fuck y'all wouldn't just put me under for this.
For real. That's insane. It's crazy how man, your teeth are in there.
Yeah, they're in there.
They're in there.
And then I remember like they pulled out in like just this long root. So apparently our family has issues with incisors.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, like we said, dentistry is pretty barbaric. Mm-hmm. Medicine kind of is.
It still is.
It's just the manner in which they do things.
Well, I mean, like you think about like people who like get open heart surgery and shit. Like they have like a rib spreader, so they'll essentially stick that shit between your rib meat and then spread it out. So that way they can like do the fucking surgery. Like they essentially have to crack your fucking ribs open.
Well, I mean, how else are they gonna get in there?
Yeah,
they just gotta break it open.
Well, I know they have like something now where they take like they can do like it's like a pinhole. And they can do the surgery, like they'll just put that pinhole like right in between the ribs and stuff, and they'll stick the tools down in there and do the surgery that they need to do. Yeah, that way they don't have to crack you open.
Yeah, I mean, many years from now it'll probably be you take a pill for everything.
Yeah,
but I remember watching Mary's stepbrother. He got into a pretty bad motorcycle accident.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And it was so bad. He totaled a person's car with his body.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And he ended up having to be life flighted to Grady or something like that. I think it was Grady. But we came to visit him after he had come home. And it was here at my house when my father-in-law still owned this house. And we walked into his room and he's all laid up with like his casts and everything. No. He's got all like the pins and shit that are like that crazy apparatus all over his body or whatever. And I'm just looking at him like, is there anything I can do for you? Do you want some pizza?
Yeah.
Like we got him like
I don't know what to do.
Yeah, but he had like a rod in his leg. And then like we saw like the x-rays where he looks like the fucking hardware aisle. It's just screws and bolts and shit everywhere. It's like, when people get injured like that, you just got to try and put them back together, I guess, however you can.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they do a pretty good job because, like, on the outside you look all right, but like in the X-ray you look like a slapped ass.
Like, holy fuck,
it's pretty bad. And then
it's like, have you ever seen the way they do like hip replacement surgery? That's really barbaric. So,
how do you replace a hip? Do you have to cut it off from the remainder of the pelvis? Or?
Essentially, what they do is they take the top portion of that. So they'll go in, from what I understand, is they go in that socket right there. They'll go in there and they'll like grind out like all of like, they'll smooth it out.
Yeah.
And then they take the top portion of that hip bone and they get rid of it.
So they will, the ball portion?
Yeah, they'll cut it the fuck off. And essentially what they do is they have a titanium ball and they'll drill a hole down in into what's left of the bone, and then they'll stick that ball on the top of it, and they'll stick it back in the socket. So essentially, like, you're missing the ball portion of your bone is gone, and so it's just that titanium ball that sits on top.
That's insane.
That's fucking insane.
How'd they figure out they could do that? You know, some poor souls before they
exactly
all the failed ones beforehand.
Some fucking some old grandma that died that donated her body to science. What's that Louis C.K. bit where he's talking about that? Where he's like, they'd like drop a body down the chute. He's like, they write a big fat F on the tit.
He was like, imagine being like a medical student who failed. Stamp an F on the titty.
He was like somebody's poor grandmother.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever seen where they'll put like a rod in somebody's leg to kind of align everything, and then when it heals, they have to take the rod out. Oof. Have you ever seen the video of how they do that? Mm-mm. So it's basically like a big long piece of all thread. Yeah. And it's sticking out of their leg, and because it's all thread, they can take a piece of metal and screw it down onto the all thread, and then they'll take a hammer and just bang on that thing and try and knock it out of your leg.
Guy's wearing like a fucking hard hat. Yeah. He's got like a tool belt. Like, why is there a construction worker in here?
Yeah. He's like, all right, hand me the Makita.
This is like, you like walk and there's like a bunch of millwrights. You're like, what are they doing here? Yeah. They're like, don't worry, count back from 10.
Fixing it, guys. We're going to take care of
it. Oh, God.
Well, we're about up on time. Is there anything you would like to say, or do you have any announcements or anything like that you'd like to make?
Not really. I know that we're sitting at, I think we're at like 350 downloads right now, maybe more. No, I checked a couple days ago. So I just want to say thank you for the continued support.
Yeah, that's almost 100 downloads per episode. Mm-hmm. Wow. So that's way more than I expected.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I just want to say thank you for everybody that keeps tuning in. Mm-hmm. I know that it's been a while since we've released an episode, but we had some unforeseen circumstances that kind of popped up with my work, and then I had some people get sick. We wanted to make sure that we weren't passing that around. Yeah. But yeah, just thanks everybody for continuing to listen in and hear what we got to say. Like I said, maybe we might do like some polls or something like that on the Facebook page.
We'll try to be a little bit more active. Engage the audience a little bit more.
Engage with our audience.
If our French listener is listening, we would like to say merci.
Yeah.
Is that thank you?
Thank you, I think.
I don't know.
Oui, oui.
Oui, oui. That's yes.
Yeah. Isn't it like oui, oui spelled like O-U-I, O-U-I?
Yeah. Yeah. The French language has got like a shitload of like silent letters. Anyway, I want to say that I recently got confirmation that Bay City Psycho's album is set to release.
Awesome.
I ended up, so when you self-publish, you have to use a distributor. And the distributor I went through was TuneCore. They seemed like they were the ones who were going to fuck us the least. We were going to get fucked, no matter where we went. Yeah. But I think they're going to do it. They'll at least use some lube. Yeah. I went on the website yesterday to check the status, and it says that the album is live. But I couldn't find it anywhere, so maybe it's still technically processing or whatever. Yeah. But I believe you should be able to find it. It should go live February 28th. I don't have the list of all the places where it's going to be hosted, but you can find it just about anywhere. Okay. The big ones are Spotify, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, iTunes, Apple Music. It'll be on all those places. It'll be on TikTok, apparently.
Really?
Yeah, and Napster. Napster's still a thing.
Napster's still a thing?
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about my music being on Napster. But
Interesting.
Anyway.
It'll be on LimeWire.
It'll be on LimeWire. Yeah, go to LimeWire. Lincoln_park_.exe.
Yeah. I'm about to ruin this computer's life.
But yeah, I think that's all I've got to say. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We really hope you've been enjoying the podcast. I hope we've been enjoying doing it. It's been a lot of fun. We'll try and, like I said, be more active on social media and engage the audience a little more and try and put out some more content. We'll just see what the future holds.
Absolutely.
Sound good?
It's been fun. I can't wait to do the next episode.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you and goodbye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.